When most people picture Illinois, they see cities like Chicago or Peoria or East St. Louis, or they see large stretches of wonderful farmland. The state is pretty flat. Most of it was covered by enormous glaciers a few tens of thousands of years ago, and when they finally retreated, they left thick mantles of fertile soil, which is excellent for farming. There are very few indications on the surface that suggest there are important oil deposits underground in Illinois. So why is it that oil can be found in rock layers beneath the surface today? In fact, Illinois has produced about 3.5 billion barrels of oil so far, and is still producing about 9 million barrels a year. What makes these facts possible? You see, Illinois is part of what is called the Illinois Basin, a shallow bowl-shaped depression in the earth that has slowly filled with layer upon layer of rock over hundreds of millions of years. If you were to slice the state from, say, Chicago down to the southern tip at about Cairo, you would see that the rock layers that are exposed at the surface in Chicago are found about 5,000 feet deep or so near the town of Fairfield in south-central Illinois, and then they get shallower again as you go toward the southern tip of the state. Geologists, who are scientists who examine the materials that make up the earth, have learned about these rock layers and have given them different names based on the appearance of each significant layer. By constructing what they call a stratigraphic column, they can create a kind of guide to tell them what rock layer they are viewing at a given point in Illinois. In this illustration, the yellow layers are sandstones, the blue layers are limestones, the purple layers are dolomites, the brown layers are shales, and the pink portion at the bottom of the column represents igneous rocks like granite. Oil and gas are normally found in porous spaces inside some of these rocks, which we then call reservoirs. One example of a reservoir rock is a sandstone. Here is a very thin section of a sandstone shown in microscopic view. The pore spaces between the grains are stained blue for clarity. Another example of a potential reservoir rock is a limestone. In some places in Illinois, dolomites form excellent reservoir rocks as well. Shales normally form what are called cap rocks, which seal in the oil and prevent it from leaking out of the reservoirs. Igneous rocks, such as granite, rarely make good reservoirs because they have very little porosity. Since oil floats on water, and since most porous rock contains some kind of fluid, we almost always look for places where oil has reached the highest spot it can reach in a reservoir rock. If a cap rock is sealing that reservoir rock, then we have the right condition for a hydrocarbon trap. There are several kinds of hydrocarbon traps in Illinois. In this example, we are showing a simple anticline trap, basically an underground hill. Anticlinal traps provide the mechanism for some of the most significant oil fields in the state. These anticlines form over millions of years when the rock layers are slowly bent by forces shaping the earth. Another trap type shown on this cross-section is one made by limestone reefs that formed in Illinois long before there were dinosaurs. Porosity in these reefs is caused by fossils, such as corals, or the dissolution of fossils, which will leave small cavities. If a reef is overlain by a tight cap rock, such as a shale, the oil is trapped inside the reef. Another type of trap we find in Illinois forms when faults shift the rock layers. If a reservoir rock gets moved so that it is completely surrounded by tight rock, then we can have a hydrocarbon trap. Although in this example it looks pretty simple, some of these kinds of traps can be quite complex. Some traps are formed when a porous layer of rock pinches out against a tight layer. In this example, a porous sandstone pinches out against a tight shale. The oil has moved to the highest point in the reservoir rock where it cannot escape. A slightly more complicated trap can occur when an ancient river valley contains isolated sandstone bars in it, just like the sandbars you see today in the rivers around Illinois. Sometimes these valleys are filled with shale, And when they cut through a reservoir rock, oil can be trapped there as well. Although 3.5 billion barrels of oil has already been produced in Illinois, there are many more traps waiting to be found. Searching for these traps will be one of the challenges for the next generation of geologists and engineers.